everybody. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to be taking you along on our island vacation to North Captiva, Florida. After flying, we did some driving to get over to Pine Island. Of course, by this time we were hungry, so we stopped at Rick's Taste of Maine on the side of the road for a lobster roll, and it was very delicious, very fresh, and very good. Once we got to our boat taxi, it looked like we might get a little wet, but we made it. So the VRBO that we stayed at was called the Pearl, and it was a really nice home, and then it had a smaller home outside that I'll give you a tour of later. And the one outside, even though it was part of the Pearl, we kept calling it the Grain of Sand. And I always get decorating inspo when I stay someplace, and these particular glass jars were no exception, filled with beautiful shells collected on the beach. The home was very comfortable and had everything we might need for our stay. And it was my husband and myself, and then my husband's youngest son, and we had fun. From our bedroom are beautiful. Of course, there were lots of windows in the house, and the views out of every window were gorgeous. And it still looked like it might rain. The bathing beauties, they were cute. There was another one tucked in the corner. This was the backyard. Of course, beautiful views back there as well. Or would you call it the back beach, I guess? And that first night we just had a home-cooked meal that was real easy. salad and tortellini. That's the view from the beach of our rented house. So every day we did pretty much the same thing, just enjoy the views. But I thought it was funny that their tree stumps were palm trees, and then I loved that little mushroom that was growing out of one. It was very hot and steamy the whole time we were there, and so obviously the plants were very happy. They had beautiful bromeliads and succulents, and of course palm trees. And I love this table of shells that had been collected. It was such a pretty little display. This was my view as I wrote and did creative things. So we ate at Mango's that day, and this little yellow jacket or wasp, they were all over the blue crab in my sandwich. This is just driving around the island. And that night we ate at a place called the Boathouse, which we hadn't been to before. I think it was new since we were last there. And dinner was really good. And then every night we enjoyed the beautiful sunsets. That was probably the best time of day, is just listening to the waves and watching the birds, and there were usually dogs on the beach and not very many humans, but it was beautiful. On Monday, we met a boat at this location, and it took us over to another little island named Cabbage Key. Was the very tip of North Captiva Island that we had to go around. And last time my husband and I were there, which was 2019, we had walked all the way down the beach. So this is kind of a northwestern tip that you have to go around from where we were picked up. Is a freestanding fishing shack, I take it, but I'm not real sure. I haven't been in it. But the last time we were there was no one in it, but I think we took a boat that time as well that took us around this way, and there were folks in there fishing. And this particular day, there were folks in there fishing as well. Cabbage Key, you can actually stay there. There are cabins that can be rented. There is also like a main house that has a restaurant in it, which is where we ate. It's just a really well-kept island. There's this pretty water tank there that you can climb up. This is the view once you get up there. took a little hike. And I was worried about alligators. I don't know why we didn't see any, but I think it's wise when you're in Florida to be on the lookout anyway. This is the restaurant, and I don't know if you can tell from this picture, but there are dollar bills hanging from the ceiling, dollar bills on the wall. People just write their name and where they're from. We had a smoked crab, maybe it was, appetizer, which was absolutely delicious. And then I had a chicken sandwich with potato salad for lunch. And for dessert, we shared a key lime pie. I also tried out the well water, which was pretty good for well water, I would say. The island had several turtles on it, and each of them had their own little den, and they were all going about their business and seemed to be stars of the show. And there was a yellow butterfly. I think there was just one yellow butterfly that I kept seeing everywhere we went, so I tried so hard to catch him, but he was fast. North Captiva, there are always manatees in this one particular little area, so they were out there sunbathing today. And this is part of my shell collection. I was real excited. That's my favorite beach to go shelling on, is there at North Captiva. So this is the view as I would just lounge each afternoon. I kept getting tickled on these golf cart rides around North Captiva. I felt like I was Marianne on Gilligan's Island, and I kept saying that my husband was Gilligan. I don't think he really liked the comparison, but it is funny that everywhere you go is on a little golf cart. All of the golf carts, as I recall or noticed, all of them were electric, and the only vehicles on the island were at the fire station. This was Mainstay, which is where we had our dinner the night after we went over to Cabbage Key. They had this most unusual succulent, which I love and want to find out what it is. And then, of course, we ended our day with another beautiful sunset. would go for snacks and usually lunches. And my stepson found a beautiful crab. And for my stepsons last night on the island, my husband cooked steaks. And then we went for another beautiful sunset out on the beach. Sunset from the bedroom is also beautiful. The next day we took Andrew to meet his ferry back to Pine Island, and there was a beautiful eagle nesting or osprey. I can't see that far. And that night we had dinner at a restaurant called Over the Water, which is really good. You saw our view. This is our meal. And we call it Over the Water, but it's actually Over the Waterfront. And of course, ended our day with the sunset. Day I toured the grain of sand right next door, and it's a perfect setup if you have someone with you that may want their own space, or two couples. There's no kitchen or anything in the other facility, just a bedroom and bathroom. And this little guy was in the backyard area having his lunch. Just this collection of shells from earlier in the day. That was beautiful flowers. And of course the shells had to be washed before I could bring them home. And while we were riding around that day, I thought it was funny, the City Hall sign. I don't think there's a City Hall there, but I could be wrong. And just pretty little totems. And then our final collection of shells the last night on the beach.